Well, welcome audience, and today what we'll be doing is Dave Frankel and I are collaboratively working on this project with another one of our friends, David Ma, who has written this fascinating children's storybook about a fish and a bird. And I have been given the task, which we had brainstormed together, of coming up with illustrations. But my illustrations were looking so bad that Dave Frankel came to the rescue, and you will soon see all of the really fascinating and beautiful things he's added on to it. So what we're going to do is I'll spend 5 minutes talking about the symbolism. For me, what I was going to do also is that each of these images that I'm making for the children's picture book addresses Dave Ma's original vision, but then also has a second meaning, each of these pictures. And the second meaning is in reference to my mythological world, my subconscious. It's all symbolism relevant to my subconscious. And so it's kind of similar. I had done a YouTube video with my mom on these songs called Nirgun, where every line can be interpreted in two different ways. It's either from the perspective of someone getting married, or it's someone dying, and it's kind of interesting. So that's what this is kind of like. So I'm going to go over the symbolism of this. First I'll describe what Dave Ma's original vision was. Dave Ma's original vision was that there was a young boy who he calls Tim. And Tim has a goldfish. And Tim has not been very successful with goldfish, unfortunately, and has led to the death of many goldfish. And so perhaps Tim is sad. We're not given information on Tim's emotional state, but one can assume that maybe Tim is a little bit sad of his failure. And he decides to dump his goldfish into a pond. And I tried to draw that. Now I'll very quickly go over my symbolism, and then Dave will show how he made this look very good. So first of all, this is about my subconscious. Everything above this double-layered membrane, which is, double-layered membranes in biology represents this threshold between the external and the internal kind of world. And here it represents the threshold between the subconscious world, which is at the top, and the conscious world, reality, on the bottom. And in this subconscious realm is a central figure that's called a Zimber. Everything in my subconscious is me, and nothing else exists within the subconscious. So you have this central figure over here, the Zimber. And the Zimber is immersed in all of these loops. And I had done a subconscious event where I looked at the literature on the subconscious and learned that some psychologists believe that the subconscious is just pieces of associations between two things, and over time you've kind of forgot that they were connected. Perhaps the perfume of someone you once knew and loved reminds you of that person. That association's built. You kind of forget it. Maybe you smell a perfume, not even fully aware of it, and now all of a sudden, 10 years later, maybe you feel a little bit lonely or something, or not sure why. So, the subconscious are all these connections, but you're not exactly sure what they are. And so that's why there are all these loops, they're all intertwined and tangled and connected, but you really can't see how they're connected. And in that tangle, in that Maya Jal, is the central Zimber right over here. And around the central Zimber is Mother Earth, and she's kind of cradling. So the subconscious is, of course, a construct of oneself, but of course Mother Earth and evolution, these things kind of dictate a little bit, I would imagine, of how the human subconscious works. So that's why she is there. And then this central Zimber has a pot here, and from that vessel, which by the way was the name of our original video game, and where Dave helped me make a video game about my subconscious. Originally it was called The Vessel, and eventually became the story of symbiosis and all. And the Zimber here is releasing an idea, almost you could almost say disseminating, almost ejaculating an idea into reality itself. Although that I had not realized until perhaps Dave reminded me or said, is that what's happening? And I was like, actually that is what's happening. I've made many images of that before, but I wasn't aware of it consciously when I did this. So I released this idea into the world, and the subconscious are these hidden associations, but the real world, you'll see, have these waves. And these waves are all, if you looked at them and you zoomed up, you'd see that these are all equations. And I found this really, oh, thank you, Dave. Wow, oh, wow. And I found this really beautiful scientific paper on different like fluid dynamics and things like that. And so these are all equations that are relevant for ponds and lakes. And so they are the cause and effect chains in reality, in the conscious world. Everything is kind of in this wave, cause and effect, governed by laws and rules, and that's what this represents. Okay, so that is mine. Now, Dave, perhaps you were given this ridiculousness, and how did you now make this into a little boy, and if you could bring us through that.
Can I give you a really quick tangent?
Please, yeah.
I had this memory when I was a little kid, and I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy, and it came with a scratch and sniff sticker, and it was supposed to be pizza. I don't know if it really smelled like pizza, but they were going for some sort of marinara thing. Oh. And I just remember like sitting in my parents' den and scratching and smelling it and like feeling good. And I don't smell this very often, but once in a while I'll smell something that smells just like it'll immediately bring me back.
Interesting.
Kind of like you were talking about, kind of subconscious associations. And I can tell you that what it smelled exactly like
whoa.
rosemary and olive oil Triscuits.
That's very fast because Dave, I was like, can I offer you some munchies, Dave? And then this is what I had. It's kind of interesting because I had totally forgotten about scratch and sniff stickers, and you don't see them too often now. Yeah. Maybe it's a portion of our childhood and those that are watching that the younger generation may not know about. It's tragically missed. Stickers that you could scratch and smell.
The other thing is, I wish you wouldn't be so hard on yourself with the art. I don't think it's bad. I think it's very you.
Oh, thank you.
I see it, and I've worked with you and your art a lot, and I see the meaning in it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope my 3-year-old nephew would enjoy such an image too. But I have a feeling what you brought next, Dave, is what brings it. But yes, I appreciate that. Right. Thank you.
So what we have next, and I'll show the layers, is still a work in progress, right? So we're kind of jumping into the middle of this process. It's not beginning, but it's not the end either.
Yeah.
So this is where we're at after our previous session. And so you want me to step through some of these layers?
Some of these layers, and maybe describe like how does one even, or what'd you do?
Well, we started with this, and the first thing I thought to myself is maybe we won't change it too much. Maybe what we'll do is add kind of like a background color so it's not white, and maybe we'll focus on adding some sort of color, maybe like kind of a glow and a texture to just the black outlines themselves. Kind of make it like as if you had drawn this very thing, but instead of ballpoint pen on paper, you had like etched it in gold and placed that on top of like some blue velvet surface.
Yeah.
I thought just that alone might be kind of cool.
It would be very cool.
So I've started the starting point. And I don't have all those layers because we started that in a different program on the computer. I might have some of them. Let's see. Let's see what happens if I turn maybe. I don't know. You can see it a tiny bit here. You can see it a tiny bit in the bottom part where it's kind of this like sort of glowy yellow, white, gold. And originally the whole thing was like this, and the other colors were just this dark blue. And so the next step was sort of twofold. We made the background not just dark blue, we added like kind of foggy, watery blue here. And we made parts of this not yellow gold, but other things. So like the top part, we made this sort of violet purple color. And this Mother Earth character, we started making her, I guess, brown, but I think we intended to do something more with her. So that was kind of where we were at to get this far. And then we talked about kind of filling these characters in a little more. Maybe they're more than just outlines. Maybe actually color her background and just do some very rough shading and highlights to give her some form while still kind of respecting the original illustrations. So that was kind of where we were at here.
And it was cool too because we didn't exactly know what we were doing. We were just adding layers of coolness on, and at any point we could have stopped, but through good conversation and friendship, we just kept going hour after hour, and I was watching Dave's beautiful magic.
And I think with Mother Earth, we decided we're going to kind of redo her, but so there's a loose sketch of what that'll be, but that's just still in sketch form. And then we shifted gears and we worked on the kid, Tim, who is represented as a Zimber character here. But I think you suggested that maybe Tim should kind of be a little more like standard little kid-like. So let's work on that. So we did. We worked on this Tim here. And there are a lot of layers here. I think we played with the expression. I kind of like where we landed on this sort of, it's kind of sad a little bit forlorn. He's giving up this fish. And yeah.
And it was pretty amazing because I saw Dave add all of these layers. Although, Dave, we had a blemish on his face, like a little pimple. Perhaps that has disappeared now.
So when in the first pass, it was this shine, and I was using a kind of fatter marker, so it was just like a round thing instead of a line. I mean, we can add something that's intended to be a blemish back on if you like, but that was what that was.
I see. That would be cool though, because then we could talk to the kids and be like, it's okay to have a little blemish on your face sometimes. Very beautiful. I love like the shine in the hair, the detail of the cowlick, and this emotion.
So yeah, there's Tim, and I guess at this point probably the big things are the Mother Earth character, and we'll want to do something with a fish, and then if there's any final polish or touch-ups, like final tweaks to Tim, we could do that, but the big things, I guess, are the fish and Mother Earth.
Yeah.
That sound about right?
That sounds great.
Okay. All right, so how should we proceed? What would you like to see next?
Mother Earth, maybe?
All right.
Yeah, because you've got the sketch here. And this is kind of cool, like as Dave was, drawing Mother Earth and thinking about like, well, what kind of emotion or something, I thought that perhaps in a way right now humanity collectively is like a mother. We're giving birth to AI and all of these things, and perhaps our collective emotion is similar to what Mother Earth feels like. She created the subconscious, she created the human, she created this child who is dumping this goldfish into a pond where the goldfish doesn't belong, and the goldfish will become an invasive species. This is based off of a true scientific story in Australia where pet goldfish have had a negative effect on the ecosystem. So I don't know, there's maybe a little bit of concern, but a little bit of love and care, and a little bit of sadness, but a little bit of all of these complex, deep emotions. And then we also decided to have like a nighttime-like vibe on the back, sort of the grand abyss of infinity that is in the background.
So I think to make it easier to work on this new Mother Earth, I'm going to trim out the previous one, and I was just duplicating layers, so if for whatever reason we want this one back, it's right there.
That's amazing. And originally the Mother, which we don't have to retain now, but originally the Mother Earth's arms kind of dissolved away into the subconscious, becoming the subconscious itself, these loops and stuff. Some people in the, I don't know if I'd ever call it the neuroscience community, but you'd hear the term the reptilian brain. Although most, I feel, psychologists and neuroscientists would be like, oh, this is an oversimplification and one should be very cautious to use such a thing. But maybe some of the inspirations behind doing that, some of the motivations, was the idea that you have Mother Earth's hands that are kind of going deep, the structure, the evolutionary structure of Mother Earth and nature that have formed us. Those fingers go deep into perhaps the way that we think and operate, what our reward system is based off of. And so these are all thoughts that we need to think of. And there goes Mother Earth. In Zimber form. And Dave, here we're talking about fish. What kind of pets have you had?
The very first pet I had was an aquatic frog.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's these frogs that only live in the water.
Oh.
They're almost see-through sometimes.
Really?
And they used to sell them in the 80s and maybe the 70s, I don't know. And they'd be these mail-order pets. And they would come in a styrofoam bucket. And I still remember the bucket. Like, it was this bucket-shaped thing, and that had this like styrofoam sort of cork. And inside of that was, I think, this little plastic bag with water in it, and maybe it was just directly placed in the bucket. I don't know. Anyway, inside of that was water and the tadpole.
Wow.
And so then you put that in a little fish tank, and it just turns into a frog.
Wow.
And you've got this frog.
And it goes through metamorphosis right in front of your face.
Yeah, right in front of your face. Yeah. So I named that frog Finny.
Finny, very fascinating. And for any of the 4 or 5 people watching this, who may be on the younger side, Dave and I were both born before the internet, and so this was a time when you would mail order frogs.
I don't think I mail ordered this frog. I think this was a gift from one of my elementary school friends.
I see. Very cool.
Yeah.
But it is kind of fascinating. Wow. And then what would you you'd get like little bugs and stuff to eat, or like?
Not bugs. Trying to remember. I think it was just fish food.
Yeah. Very cool.
I don't know if it was like special fish food or just regular fish food, but we just sprinkled these flakes in.
Very nice.
Yeah, and it just, Finny just acted like a fish. He would just kind of, when the food was coming, he'd kind of bob near the top of the water and stick his like nose or whatever up to the surface.
Yeah.
And eat it.
Very interesting, and as you're describing it, in the future images that we create, we could have a homage to Finny and have like a frog, because these are all aquatic themed stuff that we're doing here. And now that that's emerged from your subconscious, I'll put in the rough draft.
Yeah, it'd be lovely.
And the other thing I had remarked as Dave was making the fingers, the phalanges of Mother Earth here, they kind of reminded me of the fingers of a mole. And this thing is focusing on my face as opposed. Let's see if I can just make it focus here. I think it's not too bright. Hopefully the details are present. But and I thought that was fitting for a Mother Earth, that Mother Earth should have like fingers like the mole who digs through the earth. And I had told Dave a story of when I was like standing outside. I had my camera in my hand, and in the distance I thought I saw this kind of mole-like creature. It was kind of big. I've seen the smaller moles, but not a big one in my yard. And I was like, whoa, this is very unusual. It's in complete open daylight. That's not usually what you would see them. They usually kind of like, if you do see them, they're under a leaf litter, kind of like making very high-pitched noises. And so I delicately came forward, taking pictures, and at a certain point I realized that I didn't care that I was there. And what happened, and I recorded this, was it was a star-nosed mole. These are moles that have like all of these little fingers, you could almost say, on their nose. And they're very interesting. People have done research on these creatures. And in any case, I saw it have a heart attack right in front of me. It was pretty intense. And I have recorded that. I have footage of it.
Do you want to cut away to the mole having a heart attack?
Oh, with the video?
Yeah.
I don't even know where it would be. I'd have to find it. But that may be a standalone video by itself. I was actually going to do a whole thing. I was doing this YouTube series on kind of like stream of consciousness science, where I was mixing together different, very different sciences, but then like seeing how they all weave together. And I was going to do a whole episode on that, and then maybe on human augmentation, because in a way the star mole's like nose, the way it senses things, like almost like fingers on its nose, gives it like an extraordinary sense that humans may not have, and how would we replicate that through technology was some of the things I was thinking about. So Dave, what are you doing here with the green?
So my process is to have a sketch and then kind of solidify that sketch into, even if all the details aren't there, it's like the outline is there. This is the silhouette we want. And then make that silhouette.
Yeah.
And then once we have just sort of a flat color that represents her silhouette, then I can start painting on top of that, and I can use this layer to mask out top layers. So it's just easier for me to just kind of stick to this shape.
Very nice.
I don't know if I'm doing this way. I kind of going back and forth on, do I want two silhouettes, one that's behind the membrane and one that's in front, and I'm thinking now that might be what I'll do.
And for those on the viewers, Dave is working on a tablet, and he's got a stylus, and so then that's what he is doing. And so we've casted that onto a flat screen TV so the viewer can watch this magic of Dave happen. We had done this, a few sessions of this, and I was so mesmerized by this whole process that I was like, oh my goodness, I want to record it. And as all of you may have noticed, Dave has this really deep, beautiful podcast voice, and so I was like, we should make a podcast. And so then this is kind of what that is. So Dave, you had one pet that was a frog, and I remember you had a rat as a pet too.
Yeah, I had a rat who then had baby rats, so I had multiple rats.
Oh, I never knew you had baby rats.
Oh yeah.
How did
a bunch of rats.
How did the mating, like, did you have like a...
We got a single female rat. It was, I don't think they knew that she was pregnant at the store, or they did know and just intentionally didn't tell us. And then like, I don't know, a couple weeks into having her, she gave birth to tiny rats.
Damn! One of my kids, one of my high school students, that happened to him too. He got like a single female rat, and before he knew it, he had like, I don't know, like 10 babies or however much. How many babies did you get?
I don't remember. There were a bunch, but we gave a lot of them away to friends who wanted them at college. This was my first year in college. And we kept a couple. I think we kept two. We kept a daughter and a son.
Very cool.
For a little while we had 3 rats.
Did the mother get along with the daughter and son? Was she maternal?
Yeah, I don't remember how maternal specifically she was, but she got along fine. She was a friendly and social rat. The daughter was a bit more standoffish.
But interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
some rats.
For the audience who may or may not know, I call them my children. I had 2, and they were rats that were rescued from being sacrificed in a lab. They were wild type, so there was nothing wrong with them. They're just being sacrificed because that particular lab was not doing experiments on female rats, but they're breeding them so that they could have more and more. And so I was like, oh, to this undergrad, if you steal them out, I'll raise them as my children, and I did, and it was a beautiful experience, and I grew very attached to them. And one of them was, very friendly, Herpes, Her Royal Majesty Queen Herpes I, And her Royal Majesty Queen Herpes III was she had a lot more anxiety, and I guess one would say more standoffish, not necessarily as friendly. That was great.
On the topic of podcasting voices, we did have a video series we were working on for a little bit, didn't we?
We did on video games.
Yeah.
Yes. So for those of you that don't know, before we even get into the idea, Dave makes some extraordinary video games, and this is gonna meander and ramble a little bit, but like the one I most recently saw, which was exquisite, was a fighting video game, right, Dave?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, and you can obviously describe better than I can. What was the vibe or situation like?
I occasionally I'll spend a month and like do this thing where I do a drawing a day, and I'll post it online. And for whatever reason, often that's been in the fall, and so I do that. And then for years, I do these little games on the side, but I love I love Halloween, and I've always thought, oh, I should make a Halloween game, and I just never did. So this past October, I decided, okay, instead of doing my drawing a day, I will make a small game over the month of October, and it will be a 2D game, not 3D, so it'll be drawings, and it'll be a lot of drawings, because there'll be a lot of animation, and it'll be sort of vaguely Halloween themed, but not like over the top, just kind of fall sort of thing, and I did that.
It was very, very artistic, very beautiful. One of the characters was a mushroom, another one was a pumpkin.
Yeah.
And what was the third one?
The third one was a ghost.
A ghost.
And these are characters that had sort of appeared and reappeared in some of my old drawing a day sessions.
Oh, very cool. I love how you connected to things that you worked on before. And what was very surprising, again going back to the subconscious, there was one part of it that I was like, oh, this looks fascinating. I really like it. What is it, Dave? And Dave was like, well, this is the field house. And when Dave and I were at Lexington High School, there was a field house, which is probably still there. And as soon as he said it, all of these memories came flooding back. And I was like, wow, we should go there and play that fighting game and make a video on that. And so hopefully the Basement Man crew will go and do that. So that could be in the future video. And so the sketch in white is on a layer, and then underneath that you've got this green that you're doing, which is over the background, and it's very smart to do everything in a different layer, and that way you can modify it. And I like how these hands, I actually, I was actually doing a little pooply poops while thinking about this, when sometimes one thinks about deep ideas. And I thought about a memory that I had not thought about for a very long time. But back in 7th grade, I had an art teacher, and I remember having a lot of back and forth with her. But she made this, she helped me draw it. I don't know what the assignment was, but it was like, it was like a kid throwing a hat or something, and then she drew it, and the hat was like big, but it was as if the hat was here, and then from in the distance is the kid who threw it, and so it had perspective to it, and that kind of blew my mind that I was making that. She had drawn most of it, but like in some ways I had authored it, and so when I looked at what Dave did here, where you have a hand overlapping it, I was like, wow, that's pretty deep, because all the stuff that I do here doesn't have that feeling of layers. I've chosen green to to represent Mother Earth.
And we can adjust the screen. I just wanted to throw something down for our silhouette base layer.
Yeah. Here, I'll just get some aqua.
Yeah.
What was your rat's name, Dave?
The first rat was Saskia.
Is that named after an anime?
No, it was named after. There was a book that I was reading at the time called the Saskiad, and my girlfriend who I got the rat with, she hadn't read the book, but I think her friend had, and so it was sort of, we talked about it a bunch. And also, I think that's Rembrandt's wife's name. So I think sort of between those two things, we named her Saskia. And we just liked it.
Wow, Saskia. Very cool. And then what was your other rat's names?
The daughter was Mia, like Mia Farrow. And the son was Tobias.
Tobias, wow. Those are some good names. And so this video game that you created, is that like, publicly available, or is it?
It is. I try to keep all my games that I actually finish public.
Very cool. Is it
So it's...
DaveFrankel.com?
It is, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
DaveFrankel.com. I'll put that in the YouTube description. So that
Well, I don't have Dave Frankel, I have David Frankel.
David Frankel. Okay, good. So I'll put that in the YouTube description. Because there are a lot of other really cool games on there. There was, you did Lab Rat.
Yeah, right.
And,
there's a link to your website with Symbiosis Now.
This is true. And Dave had extensively helped me. So this was for my rebirth ceremony 2020, which was exploring like the human journey between Mother Earth, essentially, of being umbilically connected to Mother Earth, and then becoming pregnant, humanity becoming pregnant, and then giving birth to technology. And in that process, there was this entity called Symbiosis Null who played into it. And a long story, which I could share if I can't think of any other topics to talk about. But I don't want to suffocate this meeting with all of that. But it's a pretty cool thing you can find on my website. So in any case, it all relates to my subconscious. And Dave helped me build this video game so anyone can go and explore the symbolism of my subconscious. And eventually, the goal is, as all of this is being created, this will all live in this virtual video game. I'll update it. And you can kind of navigate through it, but then I can also bring people through my subconscious and talk about the different creatures and ideas that I've been exploring, and all thanks to Dave. Now I notice that you're doing this shading over here.
I'm just roughing in her hair. I might want to do another pass at this later, but I want to, as we're kind of filling her in, I want to have something that kind of indicates sort of generally where the hair will be, what it'll be doing.
And so the paintbrush that you're using is got like a little bit of that's cool, a little bit of I don't know what you call it, opacity, or you can see a little bit through it, and then when you do it more and more, you can make it completely not see-through.
Yeah, and so Procreate has these different brushes you can use, and some of them are meant to mimic like organic things. And so originally I was thinking maybe we'll use some sort of flowing water for her hair, but I feel like she should be more earthy. This is Mother Earth, so she should be very much like solid things and like plants and nature and ground and earth. So I saw this hemp brush and I thought that's interesting. It sounds like I can imagine like roping like hemp. Let's try that. So
that's very cool, and I like the idea of, because you do have these, like, you could say, laws of nature, or things that feel yeah, are like rules or laws or the way that nature itself works. It's not ambiguous in some ways. It may be unknown to humans, but there's a certain set of like machinery that goes with when we say nature, and so it makes sense that she's defined by that. It has a little bit of solidness there. And so the second interpretation of this could be that that's this child's mother, and that was not in the literal text that Dave Ma had written, and so in this way, this is kind of like an extra that could be there. What other video games have you created, Dave, that are on that website that you think the world would enjoy consuming? There's this beautiful fox game Dave made.
Oh, thanks.
It was very gorgeous, and this is a game. Actually, Dave, I don't want to mansplain your own game.
Okay. I like hearing other people's interpretations.
For me, what was cool about it was a very spiritual game. And so, like, it's very beautiful, and you've got these little white, I don't know, like soul thing, fireflies, whatever. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's like you're walking through a mist, but there's a mystical element to it, and there may be gravestones and stuff. Is that right, Dave?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so then now I'm forgetting a little bit. So it was an exploratory game, kind of like Symbiosis and all, right?
Yeah, it was. It was a short game project I did by myself, and my goal was to really concentrate on either creating or evoking or helping to manifest a feeling. And that's kind of what you do with games, and often the feeling games manifest is like power fantasy or something like that. Yeah. But I wanted to really do that, and I wanted to do it not just like through the visuals or whatever, but specifically through the gameplay, just how it felt to play the game for the 5-10 minutes it takes to play. And so some of the gameplay is, you kind of know what you're doing, and then some of it's a little more abstract, like what am I doing, but you're doing something, and you kind of go through these very light puzzles, and you get to the end and you take this old fox on this certain journey, and hopefully it speaks to you, would be nice, and hopefully you feel something after.
It's cool to think that of games in some ways as an exercise in mindfulness, or that it can bring you into a more mindful or peaceful state, and I feel like the Fox game had that vibe, because it wasn't like intense like gameplay to shoot stuff, to kill stuff. You're just like chilling, you're walking, there's fog, there's music, so it was very nice. It's very cool. And I don't know if this fits in, Dave, but if it does, she could have wrinkles or something, and then we get an element of age in there, and then we'll have the boy have a pimple or something, so that we can talk a little bit about the beauty of blemishes. And I had, in my youth, one of my first YouTube videos, actually, this was in the day when I was exploring the world of Flash animation. And I had created this song on pimples, and in that song I kind of sang about how pimples are like a rose garden that blossoms on your face, because they have that rosy red color to them, and so that's one viewpoint one could have with pimples. great. Now, usually for my very limited thing, even in looking at my face in this camera, it does make sense that the eyes are darker because you have that eye cavity. Is that right? The eye socket? Is this a legit thing?
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And so when you're shading things, is that how you do it? You'll shade darker the eyes and the mouth?
Yeah, I mean, it depends where the light's coming from, but just sort of as a general thing, yeah, it's kind of where I'll start, probably. I kind of feel like the light is sort of ambiguously generally coming from like above and maybe a little bit on this side because you see it like kind of like that.
Wow.
I didn't really follow that totally for the hair. The hair's like straight down, but all right, it is what it is.
Well, you could have multiple sources of light.
You could, yeah. So you could have the main source of light is coming from like this, and then there's like his shiny, sweaty epidermis is catching this like specular light that's like a kind of stronger, more distant light over here.
Very beautiful. And I like how he's sweaty too, because I feel that sometimes in children's book you don't have sweat and poop. And there was a book, Everyone Poops, which I enjoyed reading quite a bit. Not as a child, as an adult. I feel like some of these things should be in there. Where is this light coming from? Is that an implicit God? Is that something else? We leave that ambiguous for the reader of this children's book to answer to the child. Should the child ask, where is this lighting coming from?
Not sure. Did I know that you used to use Flash?
I don't know. I didn't do like a lot. So like, I did this pimple song in Flash. I mean, I was not like accomplished like you and other people. I had also for my old website, and I should try to dig up. I mean, it probably won't run now because nothing supports Flash, right? But like, I had taken pictures of my super jacket and all this other stuff. And what you could do is drag clothing onto my body and look at what different outfits would look like. So I had taken pictures of my sweater. I mean, it was pretty cool. You could just drag on pictures and put it in on my website. And now, what can you do that on a website anymore? I don't really see that kind of stuff anymore.
You don't see as much. You can do it. You can do fancy stuff with modern HTML. Okay. I can run Flash, and I would love to see that if you can find it.
Okay, I should find it. I'm sure it's somewhere. It was cool. My old website. I don't know if I had even I don't know where it existed. If it had like actual site name or what. I just remember having this Flash animation, and I thought it was accessible through the internet.
I used to do these digital paper dolls too, something similar thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
These are, what did they say? Great minds think alike. And this brush looks almost like chalk.
Yeah, it
got this irregularity over here, which is quite nice. And it's interesting that you sketch with it. It does add that feeling of like a pen or a pencil stroke. And all of these little circles and stuff are in different layers, right?
Yeah, most of them are.
Wow. Interesting. Look at that. That's cool. And so the nose, I thought, is like the lightest, but you have a little bit of color here. I guess the cheeks are very light too.
Yeah, I was gonna give her the nose is catching more light, but her skin color was gonna be a little more ruddy.
Very good. Yeah, I want her to be a lot of people may make a youthful Mother Earth. In a way, it makes sense. You want a very fertile Mother Earth who is in her prime of giving birth, maybe like a termite queen or a bee queen, sadly confined into a dark location where she's kind of trapped by, people think a bee queen is like a monarch who has complete control over the hive, but it turns out that's not really the case. It's the hive will protect the queen, but they'll also kill the queen if she's not performing well, or indirectly kill her by producing new queens who will challenge her. So it's just it's a difficult life, and the queen just has to be producing babies non-stop, and maybe Mother Earth is like that. Maybe she's just popping out babies enslaved by her children, primarily humanity, who pins her down with these skyscrapers, which are like surgical needles just being pushed right into her skin. She can't move. I don't know. Very nice. And so Fox game, and what other games have you worked on, Dave?
We're working on one right now.
That's true.
Yeah.
It took me a second. I work on so many projects I kind of forgot. So so first of all, Dave Ma had written this book for like a year, and I was so busy that I just didn't get time to make it, and so then then all these other projects came up, and one of those projects was this really amazing video game that Dave, myself, and Rachel are making. And the way it originated was that Rachel, who's actually from Lexington High School, grew up with Dave and I, and reconnected with both of us maybe just a year ago. And Rachel had come, and we had done like a Imbolc, which is a pagan holiday, done in February to kind of mark the approach of spring. And so Rachel came, and we did a collaborative Imbolc event. And a part of what we were trying to do was explore different spaces. And so it was like, all right, there's particular things that people do in Imbolc, but then, what do we want to do that's creative and different? And so Rachel and myself as well are admirers of video games, as of course Dave is a master video game creator. And the idea was that, okay, we talk about nature, we talk about the themes of transitioning into spring, and then what if we have this epic brainstorming session? Because another thing I wanted to explore was, how do you get children and adults at the same level? Where it's not like, oh, I'm an adult and I've got all these skills and you're just a kid. It's like the kids are the same, for lack of better words, power level, or like the same level as an adult, and they feel like that. And so I thought, creating a video game, because children are masters of imagination. And so it was really delightful. We all sat down, and Rachel had, her daughter, and a few other of the people brought their children. And we all brainstormed together, all as equals, child and adult. And the idea was, what could we brainstorm related to Imbolc? Closely related to that was Groundhog Day, so related to a groundhog. And we came up with a whole variety of different ideas. And the video game right now, which honors much of what people had said, is going to be this groundhog. And the groundhog is walking around. I don't know how much of this I should reveal, but who knows who's going to be watching. I don't know how 20, 30 minutes into this, so I'll reveal it, because I think this will be kind of cool, as just like when Dave and I get 80 years old and we're watching this, we'll have a good time watching this. So, it's a groundhog walking around, and it's kind of also about biodiversity, and about like creating a lawn of biodiversity instead of lawns of grass. So first, the objective is to collect enough food. And so we looked at a bunch of food that groundhogs eat, but also humans eat, because I thought it'd be cool to learn about stuff that we can eat that most people don't know anymore. Edible weeds and stuff like that, edible native plants. And so the groundhog's going, it's got a bunch of things it's got to find. First it goes, let's say, through just a normal lawn of grass. And it's like, oh, there's nothing here. Very few things I can eat. And so the hope is that the player would be like, oh, this lawn is not very useful. And then it will go, the groundhog will go into a lawn of biodiversity, full of native plants and all sorts of things. And now it's like munching away and it's having a great time. And it goes into the forest as well where it finds many things. So that's like the first layer. And then when we finish that, then we may have more layers. But what's going to be cool is that people will learn about edible things in their ecosystem. You know, like wild violets and plantains and clover and wood sorrel. And oh, by the way, Dave,
Yes.
my mom made some stuff with wood sorrel, which is one of the things that'll be in the groundhog game today.
Oh.
Yeah, if I had remembered, she would have saved some for you. We watched a YouTube video, and you kind of like, one thing that guy did was you could boil it and make a little concoction, a little drink from it.
Was that the guy that you sent to me and Rachel?
Oh yes, okay, the very same. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Nice. All right, come on in. We're doing
Are you recording?
I'm doing a little recording. Welcome. Did you eat and stuff?
I already ate. I ate young lemons,
Oh, very good.
or half of it, because there was a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
Oh,
Well, you're welcome if you want to observe or if you want to go and chill. Oh, there's the couch, but you can. It's also on the flat screen TV.
oh yeah, okay, awesome.
But, oh no, but don't feel stressed. You can also go and relax a bit.
No, I'm just going this way so I don't step on stuff.
So where we're at now is we have kind of the base color, the base silhouette like we talked about, and I did some just kind of like basic shading. So there's like kind of 3 values, or I guess 4 including the silhouette. So there's like kind of medium, dark, and light on top of the silhouette green. And I guess I've blended it a little more in some places than others, but in any case, this is kind of like, this is sort of the basis for Mother Earth, and at this point, my plan, which I can dive into now, unless you want to wrap up, would be to start kind of really fleshing her out, like kind of go back over, okay, so there's like supposed to be this like expression, she's got eyebrows, she has a mouth like here. You don't see that as much, so that's like the next thing I'll do and start like actually adding the details.
Yeah, let's do some details.
All right.
Yeah.
This is cool to watch, so you're in Procreate.
Yeah, I'm in Procreate, and I didn't know this was gonna work, but we're just like screencasting it, I guess.
And Nelly, ask as many questions as you like, because this is just a chill, you know, and we're already about 30-40 minutes into the video, so you know, this will not be. I doubt there'll be too many people who get this deep into. So basically, I'm saying that don't stress out.
It'll just be interesting for me to watch.
Yeah, but I'm saying you can ask any questions you like. The
I think the intent is for organic conversations,
Yes.
so try to keep it normal. We don't want to like, so yeah, just chat.
Just
it's
chat.
fine.
Just chat. Yeah. The blending that you're doing is just by the opacity control of the brush, right? It's not like are you doing anything else, or it's just like you go through one stroke?
So far, yeah,
Very
just
cool.
the opacity of the brush.
Very cool.
Maybe I'll do like a smudge. I don't know, but I'm kind of holding off on that for now.
Yeah.
I think when you start like, I don't know, when you start doing a lot of smudging, it kind of takes on a different look.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I mean, Dave, do you think Mother Earth plucks her eyebrows to look a particular way, or what do you think Mother Earth's vibes would be?
Oh, I don't. Do you think she plucks her eyebrows?
I don't know. I feel like She wouldn't, but Nellie, what are your thoughts on this?
She's got more important tasks.
This is true. It's an interesting thought process that once you personify Mother Earth, what does it look like? I mean, in a way, the Earth has checks and balances. So predators and prey. You've got fast reproducing plants versus slower ones like trees, and like these are all in checks and balances with one another. If something gets out of balance, then something else will take control of it. So in a way, you would think that Mother Earth may not pluck her eyebrows, but would have she may have a community of mites or something else living on her face that chops down and eats the little beavers on her right over here, and the little beavers eat the eyebrow hairs, which would be like trees to them, and so she may do something like that for maintenance. And what's also interesting, Nellie, is that we were all, Dave and I were talking about different pets we've had, and Dave had rats, I had rats.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you had a rat
I
too.
had a rat.
Yeah. So
Huh.
a very unique meeting of former rat, and none of us have rats now.
No. I only had the one.
Yeah. And I made friends, Nellie knows this, and Dave, I may have told you a little bit that I made friends with the chipmunk, but I also made friends with the red squirrel.
Oh, okay.
And today, before you came, and before I start watching those presidential debates, I was looking.
You watched that.
I watched a piece of it.
Good for you.
I was like, I should do my patriotic duty and watch it. But it's very different because they mute them, so
when they're not, it's not their turn.
it's kind of interesting, like and I've had this discussion maybe a little bit with Dave when he was making stuff on different topics, or I forget who it's just been on my mind, like how do boundary conditions affect what manifests inside? And this was like a very physics-like equation, like you'd be like, here are the boundary equations, what kind of waves or things can exist within it, but also for anything, like what kind of rule sets for a presidential debate, what does that cause, like what are the different behaviors that can manifest? So in any case, it's interesting, like the vibe, how it changed when you can do that. And it's probably the first time ever that they've like kind of had this kind of strong rule set. Because in the past you would have like a person being like, hey, can you stop talking? And then they would get dominated, or like, but now you just have technology, just shutting everything down. What was I talking about before the presidential?
The
red
chipmunk
squirrel.
or something?
Yeah, and so I was looking and I was like, what's the difference between red squirrels and gray squirrels? Well, red squirrels are smaller in size, they're red. Interestingly enough, I had noticed with this red squirrel outside who comes and kind of recognizes me now and gets peanuts, that's kind of aggressive and territorial and very mean to the chipmunks, who I'm also friends with. And when I read online is that red squirrels tend to be very aggressive.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the gray squirrels, who are larger, tend to be more docile. And I was like, oh, that's something interesting. What's also interesting is one of my highest performing videos is called something like Red Squirrel Sex in the Middle Sex Fells, is I think what I named it. And it was basically two red squirrels doing it. And it was very it was kind of aggressive because the guy was just on top of the girl and he was just aggressively going at it, and it felt, it just felt like the lady was just taking it. But when I recorded my gray squirrels doing it, it was like so dynamic, you couldn't tell which one was male or female in the sense, because both had you know, kind of like this energy. Sometimes one would push the other, then the other one would bite the other, and it'd only be once one was mounting the other that you'd be like, oh, that's the male. But it's just very interesting how maybe some of that aggression can manifest itself in mating behavior. Or it could just be that my squirrel, who's a gray squirrel, who I made friends with, is a genius. Maybe she's just so powerful. When she was mating, for a full day, it was like 7 males who were chasing her nonstop, and they could barely catch her. That's how amazing she was. And it was beautiful day. I missed some of this. Could you describe what you have done here? You got lost in my resume.
Good, but I wanted to hear the end of that story.
Well, if I were to reproduce this? What have you done here? How do you? All
right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess I started with. So we had this kind of very basic shape, and it was drawn below the sketch, and then I kind of took some of the really darker points, the eyelashes, the eyebrows, the upper lip, where you get like some dark shading, and kind of really darken those so we can start to see the sort of real shape of the face and the expression. And then I kind of built on top of that, so I darkened around the eyes, but I lit like top of the eyelids a little bit. I added more dark. I added you wanted her to
Some
kind
wrinkles.
of have
Thank
more
you.
wrinkle.
Yes.
I remember.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the detail in the eye here just adds like, because it's complex but simple shading. Like it's like, you don't have a lot of shading, but then it conveys a lot of depth to it, which I think is still a little bit beyond, way beyond my abilities. And the lips too, like you have this interplay. I never would have imagined putting a dark color at the top, but once you do it, it really does make it pop and defines it. So nice. And are these like, rules that you learned from an art class, or are these things that like you've done it over?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a little of both, I think. It's like the upper lip is not always going to be shaded darker depending on the lighting, but you draw a lot of faces and you draw a lot of like pose models and stuff, and you start to see, well, it's often the darker one, and if I need to just sort of do a shortcut and I'm just starting to draw and get into it, and what do I do? Okay,
Yeah.
just that's my default.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that.
And what's amazing about this is that initially it was just looking like kind of like a young, pretty, and her facial expression too was very like peaceful and happy. But I love this slight feeling of almost looks like disgust, maybe that she's a little disgusted, or sad or something, which is good. I want that complexity, because I feel like Mother Earth, if she could speak, many people would say that, look, humanity, what have you done to me? And so even though she has this love for her child, she also has this feeling. I had done this podcast, my former neighbor Julia, and I was describing, it was her podcast about mothers, and describing her, something I had witnessed. I had planted potatoes, and when I went to dig up the potato, I saw the main potato I put in, and when I put it in, it was this proud, strong, big potato. And when I pulled it out, it was still there, but it was completely shriveled and drained. And connected to that were all the other baby potatoes, which now were large potatoes. And I was like, damn, that's kind of like motherhood. These children just can sometimes suck dry their parents. Yeah. And who knows, maybe that's what we're doing with Mother Earth. However, there are some real people who honor. Dave, so you flipped the image. That's kind of interesting. Is that helping you do the drawing a little bit?
Yeah, it is. It's a sort of common thing, especially for folks like myself who are not constantly drawing, to favor their handedness.
Oh.
So if you're right-handed, you might draw a thing and you think, oh, that looks good. And you might not even realize that it's somehow in some like very subtle way weighted toward this one side, like it's just skewed or it's something. And then you just flip it and suddenly it's like, whoa, that's like off. So I'm just kind of flipping it back and forth to check on that. And ideally you can do this, you just sort of do this without having to flip it. You're more even, but yeah, as I said, this is where I'm at.
That's super fascinating. I wouldn't have realized. Yeah. That's very nice. This is conveying like the eyelashes coming out. What's also really cool here is that, you know, were I drawing it, people tend to draw very open eyes. It seems like, you know, the first thing kids will do is draw a circle for an eye and then put a pupil in there. And that's what you do. But, you know, in both the child and the mother, this expressiveness comes from not showing the pupils. Like you have like a, which is, it adds a very interesting dimension to it. And I love how the hair of Mother Earth kind of flows behind her child. So you have that, you still have that connection between mother and child. Very nice.
And what do you think should be on her body? It's just sort of this green, or is she wearing something?
Well, in the original that I had made, Mother Earth was naked, and you know, but not in like a sensual way, just in a naked way. Yeah, right here. She's got her boobs here, which I was concerned, you know, maybe Dave wouldn't appreciate.
I remember I looked at that and I was like, how are you going to explain that to Dave, Ma?
I know. So I guess I like this
so
version.
much better.
So to answer your question, Dave, I don't know actually. I mean, I'm down to any artistic vision that you have. I don't think I've thought of anything about.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
We can do the hands next, so we still have a minute to think about it.
Okay. Because like what metaphorically, you know, if you're personifying Earth, which is, you know, the abiotic and biotic things on the surface, you know, the living, the non-living, and it's kind of interesting too because the Earth, metaphorically or in reality, is ultimately death because like you have all these things that are dead in it, and yet it's life too. And so maybe her clothing would be death itself. But I don't know how you would represent that, or if it would just be the soil on her, because she has this green life in her. But I wonder if we have some brown in the clothing or something. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud. At the same time, I really like this because this is right now focused on the life element, and
Well, Alright, we can start by working with putting some brown in. See where that takes us.
Yeah. But I would say if we do the brown, then you know, I would think it shouldn't be like a, I don't know, like a shirt or anything, because as Mother Earth, you know, she probably wouldn't wear like a shirt. I think, I don't know. Nellie, any thoughts or comments?
I don't know, maybe a feather dress.
Feather dress, interesting. Yeah, like a.
I don't know.
What is a feather dress?
I don't even know what a feather dress. What is a feather dress?
Is that like something I'd see at the Met Gala?
Yeah, like a dress made out of like a bunch of feathers.
Okay,
Interesting.
it's like a Bjork dress.
Something like
Oh yeah,
that.
like a swan wrapped around her.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of interesting.
Something fluffy.
Like a rat or something. Since we're all owners of rats here, that would be very thematic, like a rat dress.
I like her just plain.
I think maybe that's the best.
Alright.
Yeah. This is so good. I mean, really, you know, and parts of what it is that, like, as the reader is reading, you can ask the child, well, what do you think is going on? And so now you can have a dialogue with the child who's reading it, and so having some of these elements that maybe are not fully described in the text is good. You know.
Yeah, as a general rule, I think that's a good thing to have in children's books.
Yeah. And maybe if and seems to be the case in religion too, to a certain extent. These religious books, they have a bit of like open ambiguity. Although some would say no, you literally take everything. It's kind of interesting. And so I wonder if Dave Mile would be like, no, you need to literally take my words as the truth, or if he'd be like, oh no, this is good. So we should do a. I was watching something on, like, you know, there are these YouTubers who kind of do like the history of like YouTube trends, or you know how our channels flourishing or dying, and they kind of like do an analysis on it. And I remember this YouTuber talking about like reaction videos, and how some other YouTubers like made their name on reaction videos, and eventually other people start doing it, and now it's not like, it doesn't get you that much money or views. But the reaction videos are just, you just record your reaction. And so we could show this to Dave Ma and record his face and see what emotions does he have, what does he say.
I think he's going to be excited about this.
I think, yeah, because he did see my original.
Yeah, no, this is... Yeah.
I think he'd be relieved, would be what he would be.
It's very professional.
It's very, yeah. What's also kind of interesting is when, you know, perhaps Dave Ma had become disappointed that I wouldn't be able to generate the 14 images that he had wanted for his full storybook. I went and did something which I've never done before, which is try the AI generator's text-to-image. And yeah, you know, even though like my work is on human augmentation, and I've even published on deep learning and some of these things, for my creative endeavors, I've stayed far away from it. But I was just like, let's just see what it creates. And it was, as maybe, I don't know, it wasn't at the point where like, I don't know, it had like a certain generic like aspect to it, and then there was like some oddities associated with it because it wasn't able to do a great job, I thought, converting the text into image. So this is why we still, I think, need, if you want to create something like this, which is kind of baffling and maybe has layers of symbolism, then still perhaps humans are who can do it. it certainly does take a long time. Are you giving her a highlight? Very nice. How are you making these curves? Is that like oh, you're just drawing it in?
I am, yeah. I don't know if you saw, I just turned on a sort of smooths your strokes, and kind of like if you have this little jag, it'll kind of not include that. So
interesting.
just like it kind of, if I'm just like quick freehanding stuff like this, it just makes it a bit easier.
And I didn't even realize that feature. Maybe because I still have a pirated version of very old school Photoshop, and I don't think did they have. I don't think.
Well, that might not be in Photoshop. If you have Illustrator as well, then it would have that.
Oh,
that
Illustrator has it.
Yeah.
With the pen tool, or like just. No,
It's, I don't remember which. It's been a while since I've used
Yeah.
Illustrator, but I remember it was in there.
Interesting.
But this sort of thing like makes a little more sense if you're like, do you have like a pen, like a stylus?
Oh no, I don't even have a stylus. I just have the moose.
Moose.
Yes. Some Indians call, take a step back here. Not all Indians, but back when I was growing up, my grandmother on my father's side, perhaps even on my mother's side, would call it a moose. A mouse would be called a moose. So I thought that was kind of fun.
That's
I mean,
fun.
there's a Hindi word for it, but she for some reason used the English word, and so it was just funny. And so now I don't say mouse, I say moose, because I think it's funny and people get confused.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna use that from now on. I'll tell people how Indians call it a moose. I kid.
That's funny.
Layer 101. We're getting up there.
What is it?
Layer 101.
Oh wow.
You max out at like 150 or something.
I don't know what the max is for this
I was
program.
looking into it because that was important. I know it's like, maybe 172.
Okay. Well, we still have a little ways to go before we hit that, so. Alright, how are we looking on this thing?
This looks great.
So there are parts of it that are still pretty rough, like this hand, and I feel like there could be some shading around here to kind of actually make these two forms connect to each other and not seem like the hand is just floating in front of the purple thing. But I do feel like we have a general idea of what Mother Earth is looking like.
This is amazing.
So I feel like that other stuff I mentioned, that could be a final polish pass, and because I would want to get everything to at least this level.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing is this fish.
This fish.
Which is a lot. It was pretty small. I think it'll be a lot quicker.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to redraw? You've already made a fish.
I have made a fish. I want to draw over this fish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Dave had made a really beautiful goldfish a while ago, and I feel like now that it looks so professional, Dave Frankel's fish.
That was your fish, your original fish.
This is my original fish. So this is my creature of destiny, which is represents initially. Yeah, like this. You'll see that in all my artwork. You don't have it here, but I do have on my back this spider of destiny. It's a little symbol.
Here, the spiders of destiny.
Oh yes, Dave remembered.
And we something.
So Dave, helped with that Symbiosis Null game where the Spiders of Destiny.
Yeah.
They made an appearance, and Dave modified their voices where they sounded much more like what one would imagine talking spiders would sound like. So. But yeah, I don't know, Dave. I mean, like, your goldfish looks like a legit goldfish, so I still think
It
that's
does, but it's not
flowing in. Yeah.
flowing in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But to recreate that level of goldfish detail, as opposed to maybe just squishing and pulling an old goldfish, but that would not look as good.
What was the coloring? It's like orange, right? It's just all orange and white or something?
The goldfish you had made?
And was that the coloring we want for this goldfish?
I
It's
think
orange
so.
and white?
I think it looks like a normal goldfish. Yeah.
Okay. All right. This fish's name is Comet.
I think that's what Dave Ma named it, yeah. Comet the goldfish.
And when you speak this fish's name, do you too say Comet?
So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going. Well, so I want to keep Dave Ma's text the way it is, even though I did feel an urge to change it. I mean, as much as I love the name Tim, I was like, why not have like a wilder name, like Tim is a great name, but yeah. But in any case, I'll keep Dave Ma's text as is and maybe perhaps read it, but then add a lot of annotations. Like, maybe like this guy's name is Tim, but also Zimber, so that it represents my subconscious, and that way that name will subside or live in my nephew's subconscious, and then once he's of age and able to understand the subconscious, then I'll be like, "You remember Zimber? Well, here it is, me boy," or whatever. So I wonder how long. I don't even know what the maximum. I mean, actually, I've seen YouTube videos that are quite long, right? So there's not.
Oh, there's no concern there.
Okay, good. You can put in a hour-plus video. I remember back in the day, this was when I had gone and I was on my life journey, and I'd gone to India for a year, and I was making videos for this NGO, and at that time YouTube only allowed you to put like, I think it was like maximum of 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's what it used to be.
Yeah, and so I had to chop up my documentary into those pieces just to get it up. So
Yeah.
this is nice, and here you've made the outline of a fish.
I have.
There are all these different types of goldfish out there. I'll tell a quick goldfish story, which is a true story. So I forget how I got a goldfish, but I had gotten a goldfish, and initially I fed it one time a day, but then I wanted to provide as much love as I possibly could to the goldfish, and I thought, hey, I eat 3 times a day, and this goldfish likes to eat a lot. Why not provide it a lot of food? The first thing is, what I learned about goldfish is that some people put it in just like that classic bowl. But the goldfish, that's not very good, because unless you change the water very regularly, that can be cause of death. The goldfish can be a long-lived fish if you take care of it and filter the water or clean the water, but certainly don't put it in like a little bowl. I had like a larger container, but it wasn't super large. I think I was rescuing the goldfish or something. In any case, then I started giving the goldfish food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And essentially what happened, what I learned, is the goldfish, I think like its digestive tract is just like a straight shot. And so if you overfeed it, it can sometimes blow out its like intestines or whatever if you feed it too much. And that is what happened to my goldfish, and the poor thing died from too much love. And so that was a lesson I learned.
Mm.
And here's Dave Frankel's original goldfish.
Yeah,
Very beautiful.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I saw that on your website.
not on my website. I haven't put it online, but it's in our Discord chat. If you,
I may have shown you because I was so.
Maybe when we were looking at your Procreate.
probably last.
I
time was
remember
here.
looking at all of your sketches, and that guy looks familiar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is a good goldfish,
That
but
is
I
a
can see
beautiful
how it's not really
goldfish.
flowing in.
Yeah, that one's chilling.
No, this guy's looking a little more active.
This one is being disseminated into the water. And have either of you owned any fish before?
Mm.
I have not owned fish.
Mm.
Closest I owned was that aquatic frog.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I think the goldfish may be the only fish that I owned. So, fish. What's cool about this drawing too is that, like, one would imagine conventionally that the subconscious, the way I've usually drawn it is the conscious world is above and the subconscious world is below, because, you know, subconscious, so it's kind of like below your conscious. And so this is an inversion where the conscious world, the subconscious world is on the top. And I remember this one time, and I've been trying to induce these states of, like, altered states of mind without any drugs or alcohol. And I remember sitting at this pond, this religious, it's a pond at Brandeis in the religious center. They've got like these three religious buildings, and then they have a pond in between, and it's one of my favorite spots to sit at. And I don't know how, but I got into the zone. Like I was in, like, I don't know if I'd call it like a high psychedelic state, but it was something. And it was like I imagined that the sky was like the pond, and then the fish were floating through the sky. And I forget exactly what, like, the meaning behind it was, but it was very surreal. You know, the sky became the water, and vice versa. I don't know what it was, but it was cool. Very surreal. So I think some of that vibe is here too. Yeah, I went on a run today and lay sweating on the floor, and that's another place where I try to induce these states of altered mind. And there it's a little bit easier because your body is just bleeding out all the sweat, puddles of sweat, because it's so hot, and so it's that's kind of cool. And sometimes I can emerge from it dazed and confused, and then my mom makes this Indian drink. It's a lemonade made from black salt, which smells like farts. And so I drink that and feel good.
That's what you want? You want your lemonade to smell like farts?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Once you get used to it, you don't smell the farty smell anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But the black salt has a very unique taste. It tastes different than the white salt. The white salt's potassium chloride, sodium chloride. And the black salt is, I think, potassium chloride. It's kind of interesting. I think it's, but I have to look at it again, but it tastes different. But then the side effect, I guess, is that it smells like farts. Like a sulfuric, egg-like smell or whatever. Yeah. And your first pet was a frog, and your socks are frogs.
Socks are frogs.
Very exquisite socks. Where does one get socks like these from?
Gets them from one's aunt, I believe.
Very cool aunt.
Yes, absolutely the coolest.
Yeah. Wow, look at this. And so you've done some amazing shading here. Again, like, and you've put these lines that convey movement, and that's extraordinary too. You've got a tail. It's just like these are the things that I wouldn't know how to do, because what I would do is with a very strong hand make an outline of a fish, and automatically you defeat the flowiness of the fish once you do that. And here you're conveying lines by using colors, which is very cool. The tail itself, I would have used strong lines to make the tail, but here it's you know, a white, like the white and White River rafting. And Nellie went on a really interesting water-related journey just yesterday.
Just yesterday, tubing.
Oh, Dave, do you know about tubing?
Tubing?
Yeah, Nellie, we from eastern side of Massachusetts may not know about tubing as much. Tell Dave about it. It's kind of cool.
Tell me.
Yeah, you need 2 cars. You park one car up further up the river, and then you just put in the river and you float on down. Depending on the river, it can be faster or slower. The spot that we go to, we time it based on when they let the dam out, so that way we ride the water back to downriver, and it goes through maybe 4 or 5 different rapids, and you're just in a little tube, kind of getting thrown around in the water, and it's like a bunch of people will be on the river. We're with kayakers, a group of people who are learning how to kayak, but for us it's just, we just plop in our tubes and just float down the river.
That's awesome.
And that's all there is to it. It's very lazy, and it's really beautiful because it's through the mountains, so you get super beautiful views. I saw a deer, and a train went by and blew its horn at us.
Wow.
And there was maybe a bald eagle ahead of me that was flying above me. And you always see fish jumping out of the river. And the deer was cool because it was just watching us float by. It's just just pretty.
How long do those?
3 hours.
Wow, they're floating. And have you heard of this, Dave?
I have, yeah.
I had not
Tubing
heard.
down a river, like in a large inner tube type of thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very old fashioned.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it
I've seen
felt
that.
like I was just
So cool.
1800s or something, just watching the train go by, and I'm just in my little tire tube.
Have you tubed, Dave?
No, I haven't done that.
Oh.
I did whitewater rafting one time, but it
Me
was
too.
like beginner type. It wasn't like, yeah,
I did that once too, beginner level.
yeah.
I think I did like a somewhat advanced level, and I don't even know how to swim. But I survived. Done some dangerous stuff, I guess. Yeah. I did like a gentle one in Thailand, and then I did one like legit in Maine or somewhere. But we had a guide and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, we certainly had a guide too.
Wow, look at that. You have a glimmer in the eye.
I know.
You know, you have a central glimmer, and then also like another smaller one there. It just gives it a feel of sparkle. And then around the eye you have this nice shading. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, see, I think we could get this fish. Wouldn't be too bad. It wouldn't take too long.
That's amazing. Just the fish alone would take me like a day, I think. So more, maybe. I won't even end up looking like that. You've got a little mouth here. Looking very nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, in one of my pictures, the picture number 2, the fish is supposed to go up and eat like a mosquito larva or something. I just couldn't, for the life of me, figure out how to draw a fish with a gaping mouth, and I looked online for images of it and didn't really get anything that great. This looks very good. Oh, and you're putting these nice flowing lines right here. So good. What's really cool about this as well, with like kind of the eyes being closed to both of them, is that the central figure then becomes the fish. Because like it's it's like they're not looking at you, but in a way the fish is. It's the only one with the eyes open. That's exactly what we want. Like that's the main character. They're both looking at the fish, and so that's really cool.
Cool.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that came out really good.
That's so good.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad. You wanna wrap up our evening of sketching here?
I think so. We can take a group picture, because then I'll make that the YouTube cover picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me get my camera. Well, thank you, Dave.
Yeah.